A look at the day's headlines. Seoul Special Envoy for North Korea meets North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in Pyongyang and hands him a letter from President Moon Jae-in. The envoy will announce the results of his trip in 40 minutes from now. With the employment market stuck in a rut, South Korea is looking to foster new growth engines by investing a sizable slice of the budget into creating high-quality jobs. Plus, a 6.7 magnitude earthquake slams northern Japan, triggering landslides and destroying homes. It's not yet known how many people were killed. So let's start with the South Korean delegation, which spent most of yesterday in Pyongyang. They are now back in Seoul after meeting North Korean leader Kim Jong-un for discussions on the upcoming Inter-Korean summit and the denuclearization, hopefully, of the Korean peninsula. Let's speak to our presidential office correspondent Shin Se-min, who's standing by at Cheongwha for us. Se-min, no official announcement as of yet on how this trip went, but we do have some details.
Yes, Mark, the South Korean delegation that had left for Pyongyang on Wednesday had returned late last night at around 10 p.m. after having spent nearly 12 hours in the North Korean capital of Pyongyang. And South Korea's presidential office has confirmed that President Moon Jae-in's special envoy Chung Eui-yong also met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and hand-delivered a letter from President Moon to the North Korean leader. But we still don't have the content of that letter just yet. Mark, it's been a little over 12 hours since the delegation had been returned to Seoul, but still little is known about their trip so far. We still don't know what the delegation discussed with the leader Kim or whether they have finalized a date and agenda for this month's scheduled Inter-Korean summit. But as we can see from these photos released by the top office, there were plenty of smiles on the both South and North Korean sides, even from the leader Kim Jong-un himself, leading many to speculate that the visit went smoothly. Now, the hope is that the two sides agreed on all the summit-related matters and perhaps even made some progress on the denuclearization of the North Korean regime. Mark?
Yeah, we certainly hope that's the case. And we do know that a briefing has been scheduled where you are at the top office this morning. Tell us more about that.
Right, the Blue House says that the President Moon Jae-in's special envoy Chung Eui-yong will be delivering an address, a televised address that is, at 10:40 a.m. Korea time. So in a little over half an hour time, we will know the date and some of the details of the summit to be held this month between the two leaders of both South and North Korea, which will also be held in the North Korean capital of Pyongyang. And we will also learn about how much progress was made on pushing forward with the denuclearization drive. And here at the top office, officials are already scrambling as a prep for the summit this month. The preparatory committee for the Inter-Korean summit will meet this afternoon at 4 p.m., a clear indication of the limited amount of time they have to put the summit together. So in the later hours of the day, we will hopefully have a clear picture of what the next big event between the two Koreas will be like. Mark?
Well, thank you very much for that report, Se-min, and we will be bringing you live coverage of the envoy's statement just after our newscast wraps up. If you want to watch that, we will have simultaneous English translation. Do tune in to Arirang TV from just before 10:40 a.m. Korea time. Now, in other news, the US ambassador to the UN has been talking about Washington's special ties with South Korea as the allies continue to work on a solution to the North Korea issue. Nikki Haley also drummed home the importance of keeping tough sanctions on Pyongyang to encourage the regime to abandon its nuclear weapons. Lee Seung-jae with more.
Speaking to reporters at the UN's headquarters in New York on Wednesday, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, reaffirmed the strong ties between South Korea and the U.S., saying the two nations will continue to have a strong relationship, a strong working relationship. Haley also confirmed that President Trump will meet with South Korean President Moon Jae-in on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly later this month. On North Korea sanctions, Haley said they were important because they are the only way they can get the attention of North Korea. She added the world can take comfort that Pyongyang has not tested nuclear weapons or ballistic missiles since the dialogue began. In response to President Moon's special envoy meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in Pyongyang on Wednesday, the U.S. State Department said an improvement in inter-Korean ties must be accompanied by progress towards North Korea's denuclearization. The State Department has also been stressing the importance of sanctions on the North, as they noted the UN's import quota on refined petroleum products to the North has already been surpassed. An official said that while refined oil Russia and China sold to North Korea was well under half the annual cap, the actual amount was much higher due to the illegal ship-to-ship transfer of goods to the North. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
US President Donald Trump says Washington and Seoul may sign their revised bilateral trade deal in a couple of weeks. Speaking during a cabinet meeting at the White House on Wednesday, President Trump said an agreement has been made and the signing could take place when he meets with his South Korean counterpart on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly later this month. The US called for the revision of the six-year-old trade pact to reduce its trade deficit in the automobile sector. South Korea recorded a current account surplus for the 77th straight month in July, with a surplus of nearly $8.8 billion. Provisional estimates released by the Bank of Korea show that's some $1.5 billion more than the same period last year and the highest level in 10 months. The BOK attributed this to an improved goods accounts balance, which stood at more than $11.4 billion in July, an $840 million increase from a year earlier. The services account deficit also decreased by about $170 million on year to around $3.1 billion in July. Now, emerging economies such as Turkey, Argentina and Ukraine have entered the first so-called big rate rise cycle for the first time since 2011. Analysts are already expressing concerns about the domino effect of such developments. Han Soo-ah reports.
Central banks and emerging markets have reportedly entered an austerity cycle for the fourth time since 2011, when the global economy was still recovering from the financial crisis. The Financial Times reported Tuesday, citing research by Capital Economics, that the number of central banks and emerging economies that have raised interest rates this year is higher than at any point in 7 years. Rates are rising in developed countries like the US because of the economic boom in their economies. But tightening in emerging markets is a defense mechanism against the depreciation of their currencies. After the Argentine peso fell, Buenos Aires raised its policy rate by a staggering 60%. Turkey also raised its key rate this year by 10 percentage points to 70.75% to try and stop the depreciation of the lira. It's a similar story in Ukraine, India, Indonesia, the Philippines, and the Czech Republic.
Emerging economies are under pressure, with the U.S. Federal Reserve saying it plans to raise its key interest rate up to 2 more times this year. Also, the appreciation of the U.S. dollar is prompting capital flight from emerging markets to the U.S.
Contagion risks from Argentina and Turkey are growing for other emerging markets and economies with weak fundamentals, such as those with current account deficits and high inflation rates. Some say it resembles the domino effect seen in the late 1990s, when Asian economies were hit with a major financial crisis.
Growing household debt and slowing growth are the main concerns the Bank of Korea cannot confidently raise its key interest rate this year, despite risk of capital flight from the local financial market.
The Bank of Korea in August kept its benchmark rate at 1.5% for the 9th consecutive month, pointing to economic uncertainties, including July's employment figures and low business sentiments. A rate increase by the Bank of Korea could also further burden households repaying debts, currently estimated at around $1.4 trillion, which would put a strain on consumption when their disposable income declines. Han Soo-ah, Arirang News.
The government has vowed to step up investment in industries with high growth potential, such as biohealth, software and intellectual property. It made the decision during a meeting with members of the ruling Democratic Party of Korea on Thursday. The government plans to increase investment in these sectors to boost the country's human resources and global competitiveness in areas related to the fourth industrial revolution. The meeting comes as recent reports show a slowing economy and sluggish job growth. The government asked the public not to worry, saying its policies will start to bear fruit next year. As the National Assembly's 100-day regular session started this week, the leaders of South Korea's three main parties are taking turns addressing lawmakers, and today it's the turn of the centrist Bareunmirae party. This morning's speech from that party's floor leader Kim Kwang-yong focused on the sluggish economy. He criticised the Moon administration's policies on income-led growth and minimum wage hike as well, calling them reckless. He said the government should focus on economic democracy that could foster fair economic growth. On North Korea, he said the party is willing to cooperate with the ratification of the Panmunjom Declaration, but also echoed the main opposition party's concerns on whether North Korea is fully committed to denuclearization. At least 19 people aboard an Emirates flight from Dubai to New York have fallen ill for reasons yet unknown. For more on this and other news from around the world, let's turn to our Noah Adam. So Adam, this must have been quite horrifying for the passengers.
That's right, Mark. The plane was quarantined at JFK Airport as it landed on Wednesday morning local time, with health officials checking those on board. The screening process took about 2 hours and came after about 100 passengers on board Emirates Flight 203 reported feeling sick. The US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said symptoms included coughing and high fever. 19 people were confirmed to be ill. 10 of them have been taken to hospital, while the other 9 refused to receive treatment. The aircraft was carrying more than 500 passengers, and they were all allowed to leave by Wednesday afternoon, except, of course, for those in hospital. This passenger said the symptoms were evident before the plane took off from Dubai.
Yeah, very, very deep, intense cough, violently sick, going into the bathroom a lot. It was just so obvious. It was really bad when we were lining up to get on the plane and people were so intensely sick and nobody was checking or asking any questions or even coming around with extra water or hand towels or masks. Nothing was done.
It is still unclear what caused the illness, but a spokesman for New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio speculated it could be due to a flu outbreak in the Saudi Arabian city of Mecca, where some passengers had originally come from. Emirates has said the return flight, meanwhile, to Dubai will be delayed for about 3 hours. The British government has named 2 Russian suspects thought to be involved in the Novichok nerve agent poisoning of former Russian spy Sergei Skripal and his daughter. Scotland Yard and the Crown Prosecution Service said there was enough evidence to charge Alexander Petrov and Ruslan Boshirov for attempted murder. Prime Minister Theresa May told Parliament that investigations showed they are officers of Russia's military intelligence service known as the GRU. She added the poisoning was, quote, almost certainly approved at a senior level of the Russian state. She also vowed to work on countering the GRU.
Salisbury. Mr. Speaker, while the House will appreciate that I cannot go into details, together with our allies, we will deploy the full range of tools from across our national security apparatus in order to counter the threat posed by the GRU.
Moscow, which has repeatedly denied any involvement in the attack, hit back at the announcement, with a Kremlin aide saying the names meant nothing. Russia's London embassy also called on the British government to, quote, give up politicised public accusations. The Japanese government has admitted that a man who worked at the earthquake-stricken Fukushima nuclear power plant died after radiation exposure. The man in his 50s was diagnosed with lung cancer back in 2016. This is the first death that Tokyo has acknowledged as being due to radiation from the meltdown during the 2011 tremor. The Japanese government had previously only linked the radiation to illnesses in 4 workers. Tokyo's health ministry has decided to compensate the man's family.
Now we're going to stay in Japan. A powerful magnitude 6.7 earthquake has hit the island of Hokkaido. The US Geological Survey said Thursday's tremor struck just over 60 kilometers southeast of the city of Sapporo at a depth of 33 kilometers. No tsunami warning was issued. At a press conference, Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshihide Suga confirmed there had been over 800 reported cases of landslides or damage to buildings, but said nuclear facilities are unaffected. Japanese broadcaster NHK reported 10 people have been hospitalized. 1 is seriously hurt. The first case of deadly African swine fever was detected at South Korea's Jeju International Airport on Wednesday. The Agriculture Ministry confirmed the virus was found in processed pork products brought in by a Chinese tourist. The virus was also found in livestock products that a Chinese tourist brought into South Korea via Incheon International Airport late last month. As a result, authorities are beefing up inspections on Chinese tourists and livestock products that they carry. While the virus doesn't harm humans, it's highly contagious among domestic pigs and wild boars. South Korea is looking into ways to better take care of the elderly as the nation becomes an aging society. So it's not overly surprising to see that Seoul is hosting the 3rd Asia-Europe meeting conference on this very subject. Yoon Jung-min with the details.
Like many countries around the world, South Korea's population is aging as birth rates fall and life expectancy increases. Those above 65 years of age now account for 14.3% of South Korea's total population, and that figure is projected to reach 41% by 2060. A country is classified as a post-aged society when the proportion of over 65s goes above 20%. And as society ages, the human rights of seniors is becoming more of a social issue, with many elderly people marginalized from society. To tackle this, 300 stakeholders from 30 countries gathered in Seoul for the 3rd ASEM Conference on Global Aging and Human Rights of Older Persons.
Therefore, this is a reality which imposes us the crucial challenge to rethinking and redefine the way we see, conceptualize, and address aging.
The poverty rate among the elderly in Korea amounted to 46.7% in 2016, the highest in the OECD, and elderly people often feel isolated socially.
Especially the relative poverty rate of older persons is about 46%, the highest among OECD nations. It causes other problems too, like elder abuse, elder suicide.
The forum emphasized the need to provide more senior jobs or proper subsidies to help elderly people who are economically vulnerable. It also called for more psychological care for those who live alone so that they stay attached to the community. The participants at the conference say they will keep working together to stand up for the rights of senior citizens and eliminate discrimination against the elderly. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Now, South Korea produces numerous TV shows and dramas that are extremely popular around Asia and the world. Showcasing what's on offer and what's in the pipeline as well, Seoul is hosting a big forum on the nation's broadcasting contents. Hong Yu went to check it out and files this report.
The biggest broadcast format market in Korea, the Broadcast Worldwide, or BCWW, opened on Wednesday at COEX Convention Center in southern Seoul. Already in its 18th year, the event under the slogan "Discover the Infinite Potentials of Content" will continue until Friday. 300 booths from 200 exhibitors of 50 different countries are taking part in this annual event, offering a close look at diverse broadcast formats to domestic and international buyers. And among the participants, Arirang TV had a head-turner with its long list of content production.
Arirang is producing and broadcasting various content such as news, documentary, entertainment shows, and format shows. And this year we brought a new 4K documentary called Our Travel. And our most popular programs are After School Club and Simply K-pop.
Arirang TV is currently cooperating with Chinese media outlets to not only create content together, but also promote and propel Korean programs in the Chinese market.
The booths are divided into different zones based on their field, from Power Digital Zone for Korean broadcasters that have highly influential contents to Foreign Media Zone for international broadcasters.
Hosted by the Korean Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism and organized by the Korea Creative Content Agency, the BCWW is slated to continue growing and serving as a platform to expand Korean broadcast content to all around the world.
Exports of Korean broadcast content increased last year in the Asian market, especially in Japan, making more than $400 million worth of exports in 2017 alone.
Hong Yu, Arirang News.
Now, multiple Olympic champion, short track speed skater and a Russian national, Viktor An, has decided to wrap up his skating career and return to South Korea, which is his native home country. Citing the president of the Russian Speed Skating Union, the TASS news agency said Wednesday that An has been expected to become the head coach of the Russian national team, but decided to move back to South Korea due to family reasons. He is a 6-time Olympic gold medalist and was granted Russian citizenship in 2011 when he decided to leave the South Korean team following conflicts with the coaching staff.
Promising weather is in the forecast for most of the country, but we will notice more clouds. And unlike the cool and breezy morning, highs will still be in the mid to upper 20s. But lots of clouds will bring down the daily highs a couple of notches compared to yesterday. But Seoul will still be warm, getting up to 29 degrees Celsius, and it's going to get even cloudier as the day goes on, as rain will make a comeback. Seoul and its surrounding regions will see showers after midnight, but letting up before the morning, while the rest of the country is forecast to see the rain until lunchtime tomorrow. And tomorrow's rainfall will bring a bit of chill to the country, but we are looking at highs staying above the seasonal averages for another week or so. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's pretty much all we have for now. Just a reminder that we'll have the statement from President Moon's special envoy to North Korea coming up in around 15 minutes from now. We should be getting a lot of new information, including the date and agenda for the planned Pyongyang summit between the two leaders of the two Koreas. So until then, goodbye. This week on Money Monster, we report on the thermal imaging camera which helps identify objects more effectively by sensing the heat and its application to a wider range of markets. Also, we introduce local currencies which can accelerate consumption and boost the development of the local economy. And we analyse the 3D printing market, which has been led by the service sector and collaborated with a variety of different industrial fields. Be sure to tune in and join us.
한의학진흥재단은 한의학을 육성하고 산업화해서 국민 건강과 국가 경제에 기여하고자 만들어진 복지부 유일의 한의학진흥기관이라고 할 수가 있습니다.
대박.
A glimpse into everyday life. Now.
이것 보고 이제 기초 작업이라 하는데 쳇바퀴 타렘이라고 합니다. 쳇바퀴 타렘. 여기 이 지역 옹기 만드는 기법이 넓적하니 이렇게 쳇바퀴 타렘이처럼 이렇게 만들었잖아요. 이거 쳇바퀴 타렘이라고 불러요. 이거는 조막이라고 불러요. 좌측에 선에 든 거. 이거는 수레락이에요. 요거는 안에다 이렇게 대고 이렇게 치거든요. 마주치면 늘어나요. 소리도 나면서 이렇게 키우는 거예요. 늘리는 거예요. 훌태, 이거는 소 훌태, 이거는 바깥, 오른손에 든 바깥 훌태. 이래 가지고 말하자면 이렇게 자기가 원하는 형태를 내면서 말하자면 문질러면 이렇게 민첩해져요. 말하자면 저 같은 업체가요 한 25개 한 30개 업체가 되더라고요. 그때 당시는 딱 엮어졌어요. 어느 작업장에서는 옹기 만든 작업장에서는 어느 배를 이렇게 물건을 대줘요. 배도 이 동력선이 아니라 바람 따라 다니는 배죠. 흙 속에 들어있는 미세한 모래알은 수축이 덜 들고 덜 줄어드니까 이렇게 완전히 굳게 되면 흙은 더 줄어들고 모래알은 덜 줄어들게 거칠어요. 이렇게 겉이 거칠었다. 그렇다면 뭐 시큰둥이 먼지도 잘 찌고 그래서 말하자면 유리처럼 민첩하기 위해서 이제 유약을 바른 거죠.
Now, a glimpse into everyday life.
The 21st Inter-Korean Family Reunion came to an end with no promise of a future meetup. What are the structural problems of these reunions and the practical ways to solve them? On this week's episode, we examine Germany's case and how they solved the conundrum, as well as practical solutions Korea can learn. Tune into The Point World Affairs to find out.
Hello, I'm Mark Broom. We are breaking into our regularly scheduled programmes to bring you coverage of President Moon Jae-in's Special Envoy's announcement of the results of his trip to Pyongyang. He spent one day there yesterday. South Korea's National Security Advisor Jong Il-yong will be stepping up to the podium at Cheongwadae very soon to deliver a statement, and as soon as he comes up, we will cut to that. We don't know whether he's going to take any reporters' questions after. We also don't have any real idea what he's going to say, but there are expectations that he's going to reveal the date of the scheduled third summit between President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. That will happen in Pyongyang this time. The last two times have been at Panmunjom, at the inter-Korean border. We should also get perhaps a bit of a rundown of the agenda items, and we'll be paying extra special attention to hear about whether the North Koreans have made any fresh commitments to denuclearize amid concerns progress on that front has stalled. The envoy is due to start speaking at 10:40 a.m., so in just a few seconds' time, but it appears there might be a slight delay. We were expecting him to have started by now, so while we wait and look at the picture from the Blue House there, waiting for National Security Advisor Jong Il-yong to step up to the podium to deliver his statement. He went to Pyongyang on Wednesday. He met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un on Wednesday as well. There's an official standing by, so we may see him pretty shortly. But we'll give you a rundown of what has been happening over the past couple of days while we wait for that, because Jong and the other four other government officials went with him on Wednesday, and Jong and the delegation passed a personal letter from President Moon Jae-in to Kim Jong-un. Photos of that meeting show both sides seem to be pretty happy. They had smiles on their faces, so what we can read into that, we don't know yet, but perhaps it does bode well for how the meeting went. I'm keeping an eye on our monitor here on the Blue House, waiting for the national advisor to come out and address the nation. This is being broadcast around South Korea. As you would imagine, this is of huge importance to the nation, especially at this time when diplomacy is stalled between the United States and North Korea. But between the two Koreas, it seems as though things are going pretty well. There are, like I mentioned, hopes that the two sides agreed on matters related to denuclearization. That's the big one we're waiting to hear about as well. But there are, of course, as we know, numerous different issues between the two different Koreas. I think we're going to speak to our presidential office correspondent who is on the line for us. Shin Se-min is standing by at Cheongwadae. So we're still waiting for the National Security Advisor to come out and speak to us. What are we expecting him to say?
Right, Mark, we are still waiting for the Special Envoy Jong Il-yong to come up to the stage to address to the nation, which was initially scheduled for 10:40 a.m., but it's being delayed because of the speech that's taking place at the National Assembly. But just to give you a recap of what he will be talking about, in less than 10 minutes time, we'll be hearing from the Special Envoy Chung Eui-yong himself about the exact dates and the details of the summit between the two Korean leaders, which will be held in Pyongyang in September. Now, the speculation is that the summit will be taking place sometime next week or the week after, but minus the last week, given the circumstances of the UN General Assembly, which South Korean President Moon Jae-in might be attending to meet with U.S. President Donald Trump. But here at the top office, officials are already scrambling for the preparation part of that summit between both South and North Korean leaders. The preparatory committee for the Inter-Korean Summit will be meeting this afternoon at 4 p.m. Korea time, showing a clear indication of the limited amount of time that they have to put the summit together. And not just about the exact date and the details of the summit between the Korean leaders, we'll also learn about how much progress was made on pushing forward with the denuclearization drive. Now, a day before the Special Envoy Chung Eui-yong had left for Pyongyang, on Tuesday, that is, this week, he had addressed the reporters here at the top office, saying that he will, speaking of his plans to discuss ways to achieve complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. So we can expect that to come from the Special Envoy who just landed Seoul last night. Mark?
Well, thank you very much for that report, Semin. That was our Blue House correspondent Shin Se-min reporting. If you're just joining us, we were expecting Chung Eui-yong, the top envoy, the special advisor of President Moon, to have started his statement by now. He was due to start at 10:40 a.m. Korea time, so he is running about 5 minutes late. As Semin touched upon when we connected with her there is a speech happening right now at South Korea's National Assembly. The floor leader of the minor opposition Bareunmirae Party is laying out his party's policies going forward, and also talking a bit more about what the South Korean government can do. And it appears he has just wrapped up his speech, and so presumably we won't have to wait very long now for the envoy to come out and talk to us. So he went there, Chung Eui-yong went to Pyongyang on Wednesday, spoke to Kim Jong-un, passed a personal letter from President Moon Jae-in. Hopefully we're going to find out the dates of the summit. The Pyongyang summit is truly going to be a historic historic moment. We are just watching the screen while I'm talking to you here, so just bear that in mind. So they passed a letter to Kim Jong-un, and we don't know what was in that letter. And so I believe we have a 30-second warning now, so we will be passing it over to Chung Wa-dae to hear this statement regarding the trip to North Korea by that 5-member delegation led by Special Envoy Chung Eui-yong. Here he comes.
정의용 특사의 특사단 방북 결과 발표가 있겠습니다.
안녕하십니까. 대통령 대북 특사단은 어제 저녁 늦은 시간에 돌아왔습니다. 특사단은 방북을 통해 북측과 남북관계 발전, 한반도 비핵화 및 평화정착 문제를 폭넓게 협의하였습니다. 특사단은 어제 오전 평양 도착 이후
We also met with Chairman Kim Jong-un to deliver President Moon Jae-in's letter, and we held in-depth discussions on the next Inter-Korean Summit, as well as other issues involving the two Koreas. We also met with the North's high-level officials, including Kim Young-chol, Vice Chairman of the Workers' Party Central Committee, to discuss detailed measures to put the commitments of the two leaders into reality. First, two Koreas have agreed to hold the Inter-Korean Summit in Pyongyang for 3 days and 2 nights from September 18th to 20th. And leading up to the summit, the high-level working-level talks on protocol, security, communication, and press will be held early next week at the Truce Village of Panmunjom. During the Inter-Korean Summit, the two Koreas will review the achievements as well as the future directions of the Panmunjom Declaration and discuss practical measures to denuclearize the Korean Peninsula and other issues of establishing eternal peace and co-prosperity on the peninsula. Second, Chairman Kim Jong-un reaffirmed his strong intentions to a complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. And to this end, he also expressed his intentions to cooperate closely with not only South Korea but also with the United States. Third, two Koreas also agreed that the inter-Korean dialogues taking place with the aim of alleviating military tensions will be carried out, agreeing on detailed measures to build mutual trust and prevent military conflicts, marking the Inter-Korean Summit. Fourth, two Koreas also agreed to open the liaison offices, which house officers from both Koreas prior to the Inter-Korean Summit and continue necessary cooperation. The results of the envoy's visit to the North will be explained in detail to the United States as well as other concerned parties, and we will continue close coordination with them. Going forward, the two Koreas will continue to exert efforts to make practical progress in developing the inter-Korean relations, denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, and establishing peace. I extend my gratitude to all of our people who have sent us their support as the envoy made the visit to the North. Thank you very much. And we will continue on and receiving questions from the reporters from Yonhap News Agency. The special envoy presented any agenda or any cards to solve also the stalled diplomacy between Pyongyang and Washington? And did Chairman Kim have any detailed intentions on how to alleviate such stalled talks right now? As I explained earlier, Chairman Kim has expressed his intentions, very clear intentions, to denuclearize the Korean Peninsula. He also explained that such intentions he also expressed his concerns that the international community has on his intentions. And he has said that the North Korea has made specific measures, and he asked the international community to understand the goodwill behind such measures. And the Punggye-ri test site has been collapsed, and therefore no nuclear tests will be able to be carried out. And another test site at at North Korea has also halted nuclear development tests, and this means referred to as a very clear intention to denuclearize. However, he expressed his concerns that the international community does not fully understand such intentions, and he also expressed his message to be delivered to the U.S. Although I cannot reveal the details of the message here today, Chairman Kim has an understanding that he hopes to make conditions to enable the next to progress the relationships. And from YTN. Before going to North Korea, you said that you will move towards the end of the Korean War by the end of this year. What does Chairman Kim have in mind as of this, and what does U.S. and South Korea have in mind? As you may all be aware of, the declaration to the end of the war, in accordance to the Panmunjom Declaration on April 27th, will be achieved within this year. The South Korean government believes that this is a form of political declaration and is a means of building trust between the concerned parties and is the first step to do so. And North Korea also agrees on us on this point. And thus, Chairman Kim believes that South Korea and some of the other nations, including the U.S., that the declaration of the end of the war may lead to weakening ties between Seoul and Washington and the removal of U.S. forces in Korea. But he wanted to express the details that they are not related at all. And next question from Money Today.
네, 시장님 추석 특사로 다녀오시느라고 고생 많으셨습니다. 그 북미 간의 대화 관련해서 다시 여쭤보면요.
I would like to ask you on the dialogue between Pyongyang and Washington. Secretary of State Pompeo couldn't make his visit to Pyongyang. Does Chairman Kim, especially towards President Trump or any other messages? Did he have any messages towards Trump, or did he send any messages that he hopes for a next visit by Pompeo? Well, he said that his belief in President Trump and his confidence in him is still very strong. Although the relations between the two countries are withering right now, but he stressed multiple times that he has very strong trust on President Trump. Chairman Kim also explained that no one at his he told no one any negative comments about President Trump, and he also said that based on such trust, he hopes within the first term of President Trump that the North and the U.S. could really break out from the 7 decades of history of hostile relations between the two countries, and to really realize denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. As far as to the fourth scheduled visit by Secretary of State Pompeo, no details have been disclosed yet, but North Korea believes that these preemptive measures taken by its regime, if it's taken, it believes that the North's denuclearization can happen, and also it believes that they can continue on with more concrete measures to denuclearize the Korean Peninsula. And next question from MBC.
수고하셨습니다. 그 김정은 위원장의 이달 말 유엔 총회 방문과 관련해서
as far as the UN General Assembly, does Chairman Kim has any intentions to go to the General Assembly? As far as the September UN General Assembly, I don't think the two leaders of the Koreas will meet at the UN General Assembly. And I believe that President Moon Jae-in will visit the UN to deliver his keynote speech. And next question from Kookmin Daily. Up until now, the two leaders between the two Koreas have stressed the need to denuclearize the Korean Peninsula. However, there were difficulties among dialogue between Pyongyang and Washington. While during your visit, did Chairman Kim mention any detailed measures to alleviate such tensions with Washington? In the course of solving this problem of nuclearization, the North Korea also has high hopes on the role of South Korea. And when President Moon Jae-in visits North Korea this time in September, I believe that they will discuss more in-depth discussions on the future measures and detailed measures. I will take one more question. And from SBS this time. First of all, the North Korea said that they will continue dialogue with the U.S. Will you visit the U.S. to explain the details of the talks as you did the last time? And Washington is currently requiring and calling for very concrete measures. But you have mentioned the Chairman Kim's previous measures taken by Kim. Were there any current measures discussed during your visit this time? First of all, I will explain the details of the results of the visit of the special envoy as soon as possible to the concerned parties and related parties, if needed. As soon as the detailed schedules are set, we will release the details to the rest of the press. And as far as to the second question, let me go to recap what I have said earlier. North Korea has the principle of acting in two ways. So if these measures are taken, North Korea has clear intentions to realize denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula. I believe you have more questions, but we will keep it to this at this time, and this concludes the presentation. Thank you very much.
Fascinating stuff there. Mark your calendars. 12 days from now, that's when the third Inter-Korean summit between President Moon and Kim Jong-un is going to happen in Pyongyang. We just heard that from the special envoy who got back from Pyongyang yesterday, Jong Eui-yong. He delivered that statement on the outcome. It sounds like a very productive one-day trip to the North Korean capital. So let's go back to our Blue House correspondent Shin Se-min for a recap of what the envoy had to say. It wasn't just a statement. He said that he stood there and took 6 different questions. So we now know September 18th to the 20th, Se-min. It's going to be 3 days and 2 nights.
Right, as we just saw, the South Korea's special envoy Jong Eui-yong confirmed the dates for the next big event between the two Koreas. For 2 nights and 3 days from September 18th, Tuesday that is, until the Thursday that week, September 20th, President Moon Jae-in will be in Pyongyang holding his third encounter with the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Now, the special envoy said high-level meeting between the Koreas will be held at the Inter-Korean Truce Village of Panmunjom next week to sort out some of the details of the summit, formality, communication, and news coverage of the event there. And the envoy also said the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has reaffirmed his commitment to denuclearize his regime and agreed to closely cooperate with South Korea and the U.S. And Chung, who also doubles the role as the top security advisor, said the two Koreas have agreed to continue efforts to ease military tension in the region, just like they have in the past couple months. And about the Inter-Korean liaison office that had been put to a hold over a lackluster process between the two Koreas, the two sides have settled to open the office before the summit this month. So a lot to digest, Mark, but again, some of the announcements made by the envoy resonates with what the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un had said a little before that announcement with the North Korea's state-run media, the Korean Central News Agency, saying that the leader Kim had renewed his commitment to make the Korean Peninsula free of nuclear weapons and threats, and said that he also discussed, quote-unquote, candidly with the South Korean delegation on the issues related to improving relations between the two Koreas and also ensuring lasting peace and stability in the region. Now, that is it for me for now, but I'll be sure to be back with more and comprehensive reports on the details of the summit for this month and many more. Mark?
Well, thank you very much, Se-min. Lasting peace in the region is what everyone wants in Korea. Yes, and just to add to what Se-min said there, the envoy said that Kim trusts President Trump and they have strong confidence in each other, which is rather reassuring as well. But that's where we're going to have to leave it for now. If you have just turned on the TV, South Korea has just confirmed that the third summit between President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un will take place in Pyongyang on September 18th through to the 20th. It's going to be spread out over 3 days. So this is all going to kick off in 12 days' time, but there's going to be plenty of pre-summit talks going on in the meantime. Stay tuned to Arirang TV, and we'll have much, much more on all of this story during our next newscast. It's coming up at noon Korea time. So until then, goodbye.